Hello and good morning everybody, and welcome back once again for another video of DIY investing. As we're just sitting here consolidating, waiting for Bitcoin to make its move either bearish or bullish, I figured that I'd go through and start analyzing and giving you guys some more altcoin charts that have to do with the Bitcoin pairs. Bitcoin pairs are some of the most profitable setups that you can trade only in certain points of the market cycle. Now, because Bitcoin is so volatile, anytime that these setups play out and give you a setup to be buying, you really should jump on that opportunity because oftentimes it doesn't last long. Bitcoin can make a run, the altcoins can rally really hard, and if you're not getting in at the right time, you might be stuck waiting for over a year's period of time before the market conditions improve enough for buying opportunities again. Today we're going to be diving in and taking a look at 4 different altcoins on the Bitcoin pairs that I expect to be some of the most profitable setups to trade for this next alt season. If you're new and just finding this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any more videos like the one provided for you here. Now, if you're somebody that's looking for more of my analysis, click the invitation link in the description of this video, and there you're going to get access to my Discord server. Okay guys, we got a lot to cover today, so let's get right into it. Alright, so first up today on the list is going to be XRP. Now XRP is one that I really like because it does show a lot of bullish divergence. When it comes to me trading Bitcoin pairs, oftentimes I don't really like to catch the falling knife unless I see some very obvious bullish divergence happening on the RSI. Just because the way that these work, oftentimes they can stay oversold for long periods of time. Another time they can just rally really quickly, and so they're really volatile, so it's a little bit harder to time exactly when the right time to be getting in is. So one of the best strategies that I like to use is bullish divergence. Now, one thing that I've talked about in previous videos, some of you guys that maybe are just now following me from recently don't know this, but one thing that I've always pointed out with Bitcoin pairs is the fact that they just do fractals. It's basically the same market cycle, just kind of repeated in different ways. And I'll be able to kind of show you guys exactly what I mean by that. So taking a look here, let's just remove all of this stuff. Taking a look here, this was our first cycle inside of XRP that we ever had. Now, if we stop and analyze this cycle and compare it to the one that's happening currently, we're going to be able to start to see the correlations between the two. Now, even though no two market cycles are ever going to behave exactly the same, there are plenty of correlations between previous price history and what's happening now that we can make the comparison, and it will help us to kind of determine where we're at in the current cycle. So by taking a look here, we're going to be able to see that we saw roughly the same pattern. Now, this cycle here, this big parabolic run that we saw that was about 50x from top to bottom, that one is roughly the same as this cycle right here, and they follow the same market symmetry. So you have the rally and then you have the strong retrace. Right now, right here, this first little bounce we get is roughly the same as this one right here, and then we follow one more low, we follow one more low, and then we start the next run up. Now keep in mind guys, this run went a little bit higher than the last one, whereas this one went lower than the last one, which is another reason why I just wanted to point out no cycles are ever going to behave exactly the same. The only reason I like to pay attention to these cycles is to understand where we're at currently. It's not, most of the time it's not usually looking for an actual position, it's mostly just looking as to where we might be in the cycle. And so by taking a look at this, we can see that we had a second run up, and then we topped out of that one and started falling. So second run up, topped out of that one, and then we started falling. And so realistically, what comes next is the sell-off after the second high, which takes us to here. And we see almost the same patterns even. This one's a little bit different, but we saw the same sort of inverse head and shoulder looking setup. Now this one peaked up much higher than the one that we saw here, but we're seeing the same correlations in market structure, right? Something along the lines of that. Now let's move this over here a little bit. Something along the lines of that. And so realistically, we sold off from that, and now we're in this last sell-off. Now, why do I think that we're not going to sell off as long as this? My reason for that is because I think that this Bitcoin cycle is at a point where it's going much more parabolic, and thus it's going to bring up altcoins in a more parabolic pace than previously, because the last cycle was a long one. I mean, from top to capitulation was a year, from capitulation to accumulation was almost a full year, and then from accumulation until we broke out of all-time high was another year. So this cycle is going to be accumulated at a much slower pace compared to this one. This one is much more volatile, which is why you're going to see differences between them. But in theory, we've had this sell-off, A, B, and C. A, B, and C. So this one was a lot longer, but I do believe we're at roughly the same point. We're either about here, or we could be even at the bottom here. I like the volume that's coming in here. And so for me, I think that we're at that point, that close point where these altcoin Bitcoin pairs are going to start rallying very soon. Now, what I said at the very start of the video was what I look for when it comes to trading these pairs is bullish divergence, because oftentimes it is a little bit tricky to time when the exact bottom is going to be, whereas these bullish divergences often tell you. And we've seen it a number of different times with XRP. There was a bullish divergence right here at the bottom. There was one right here technically, but that one didn't break out. We saw one right here before we had the 50x move. We saw one right here before we saw this impulse. And now we're seeing pretty much the biggest bullish divergence we have ever had on the RSI. And this is a 3-day. You're going to be able to even see it on the daily, and it looks even bigger than that. But what I'm noticing right here, guys, is a very obvious bullish setup. We had 3 consecutive lower lows, and then we had 3 consecutive higher highs in momentum on the RSI, which is obviously the most bullish signal that you're going to get with these Bitcoin pairs is the bullish divergence. Now, there's a number of different indicators that you can use, but for me, my most profitable setups and one of the easiest to find are these bullish divergence, because it doesn't really take a whole lot to establish when a trend is complete. Now, if we dive in here, before we switch to the next coin, we're going to be able to see that from this initial impulse that we saw right down in here the last couple days, we're going to see that we broke out of this short-term descending resistance. And so that is another very bullish sign. So what I would expect to happen from where we're at is if we don't start buying up right now, I would expect us to drop just a little bit lower and retest this trend line. Now, it doesn't matter. We can go a little bit lower or we can stop right here. Really, the retest is going right now, so that's going to be your best bet for accumulation in the short term. But this is what I'm watching out for, guys. Really, Ripple is one that has proven itself to be a top moving altcoin. These Bitcoin pairs give you a nice setup to make a lot of money and grow your Bitcoin stack relatively quickly. And so if you get in at the right time, you can actually maximize a lot of profit return. Now, if it was me looking to trade this, for me, I'm much more of a long-term holder, and so I'm looking for a little bit bigger returns. My first target would be the high of both of these 2 peaks, just because of the fact I think that this is going to definitely hit these levels. Now, we've stayed sold down in this bear market. Let's see here, for roughly 626 days approximately, right about that time. So over a year we've been retracing. Now if we come over here and take a look, let's see how long we retraced in this move, and maybe that'll give us a clear picture as to what we could potentially expect. So this one was 207 days. Now from bottom of 207 days, from the bottom of 207 days, we experienced about a 17x return. And so we've basically tripled that almost. And so this consolidation is happening a lot longer. Now, if we come back here, we're going to see that from the cycle high to the low over to here was about 800 days. Now, if we could do this again, we're going to see that we're about $200 or 200 days short here in this cycle, but it doesn't matter, guys. This one from bottom to top produced a 50x move, and so this one's just a couple hundred days shorter. I would expect it to still produce a pretty significant rally. Now, I would expect us to break out of these highs, so that's really good at what the target I'm rocking with. Now, you guys should check out my channel trading video. I'll link it to the video here. Check out that channel trading video. I'd go over Dogecoin briefly in that, and I teach you guys kind of my setup for trading some of these Bitcoin pairs. It's a really profitable setup, and it's actually the same setup I'm going to be rocking with this one. Now, if you're rocking with this channel trading setup, I don't think you can really go wrong targeting about right here. These 2 targets are going to be your biggest bets for consistency, in my opinion. We've had 2 highs here. We've had 2 highs up here. Really, all of this stuff in between is just noise. I'd rather just hit one of the 2 targets. And so this is what I'm going to be rocking out with. Now, remember, guys, if you don't know channel trading, make sure you check out my channel trading video, and that's going to be able to explain exactly what this strategy is and how to profit using it. Alright guys, next up is Ethereum. Now this is another coin I just recently talked about. I will link the video where I talked about the Ethereum fractal in this one so that you can check that out, because I really don't need to go into too much in-depth analysis with the fractal. Basically all I'm going to say is just the same as what I just explained to you guys with XRP, how the fractals just repeat. This fractal is the exact same as this one. Hardly any difference. The symmetry is almost identical. There's a little bit of a difference, but not much. Now, comparing this cycle to this one, we're at the last sell-off. We're right here somewhere. Now, we're either going to make one more lower low, or this is the actual bottom itself. And so what I'm watching out for with Ethereum is our first leg up, which would be right here. And this is really what we're close to be completing. We've sold through support here, and we're making our last leg down. We could be right here before we have a potential buyback and then one more lower low, or we could already be completing the one wave. It's just what we're going to have to watch and see what the market gives us, more or less. But from here, taking a look, we're going to be able to see that things are looking pretty interesting. Now, we did get our first breakout of descending resistance here, but then we did fall for one more lower low. And that happens. It's just what happens in trading. You're not always going to be perfect. You can't always be 100% accurate. But now we're more or less just kind of watching where this bottom's going to take us. We have broken from descending resistance on the short term, but the fact we are going for one more lower low happens inside of breaking out markets. Sometimes they'll break out and then land back on a trending support, and to do that they'll make one more leg down. And so with these setups, it's a little bit more unpredictable exactly where that bottom's going to be. Now we have bottomed at support right about there, maybe even a little bit lower than that. Right about here is where we found our first support. Now, our next big thing that we got to watch out for with Ethereum right now is this bottom. Now, this is our resistance. We broke through that, so that is now acting as resistance. And so we have bounced here, but until we claim right about here, and we don't have to, we can actually consolidate below this for a second. We don't have to break immediately up and out of that. We can consolidate here for a second before doing it, but I would like us in this impulse to come back up and retest this resistance. Now, like I said, we don't have to break out of it immediately. We can sell off a little bit from there, but we're going to need to see that happen soon. If we do hit this resistance and start selling off, I'd like it to see formation of the market similar to what we saw back in here, where we just barely slightly sell off. Now, if we start dropping off pretty rapidly, I would expect one more leg down that could potentially take us back down to about here at 0.01. On the Bitcoin pair. And so this is what I'm going to be watching out for with Ethereum. Now, the cool thing about Ethereum is whenever we do find this bottom, whenever it does, and we make our first leg up, it's going to be your best bet for buying for the long term, because this one's going to really set up and lead the market. Now, from where we're at currently, at current prices at 0.21, let's check this out. At 0.21 to the all-time high is about 646% or 45%. Now, if we go back and look at the last couple cycles, kind of the way it works is we have our one wave impulse down here, and then the three wave impulse actually breaks that all-time high mark and then comes back down and lands on support before we have one more final five wave that takes us into price discovery. And this is what's happened every cycle thus far, so I'd expect it to play out similarly. We have the three wave breaks out of the all-time high of the last cycle, we land on support of the previous all-time high in the 4, and then the 5 wave is price discovery, which goes super parabolic. And so really I'm watching for the same setup to play out once again, and I don't really understand why it won't. Now, whether the one wave's here, whether we make one more leg down before the impulse, it really doesn't matter in my opinion. I'm just going to be watching. I have Ethereum, and so I'm just kind of holding and waiting to see what the market's going to give us before I do actually buy more into this market. So what I'm expecting to see is something like the one wave. The three wave should break out of this all-time high mark compared to the last cycles, which it has, and then that 5 wave should take us into price discovery. Now, really, I think a realistic target for this next cycle is 0.3 Ethereum to Bitcoin, 0.03. So for every one Ethereum, it equals 0.3 Bitcoin, and I think that that is very possible. Now, I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but we're going to watch and see. But based off of the 2 cycles previously, they followed each other almost identically. I would expect this cycle to at least do something similar. And so this is kind of what I'm rocking out with. Overall, long term for Ethereum, I think that with this next big impulse, I think we could very easily see a 0.3 Ethereum to Bitcoin ratio. So this is what I'm going to be rocking out with. Now, if we pull up trading plan tool from roughly where we're at. That's going to put us at about 13x, which I don't find unrealistic in the slightest. I think it's very possible. And in fact, we could go higher than that. This cycle went much higher than the last one compared to this one. So we're going to watch and see what the market's going to give us. But overall, I think that Ethereum is one of the best bet altcoins that you can rock with when it comes to trading the Bitcoin pairs, because this is going to be the leader of the market. It's going to be the first crypto to really start impulsing. And so with that, if you hold Ethereum, you're going to kind of understand what the rest of the market's going to do, because you're going to be making profit with Ethereum. Whenever Ethereum starts to top out and sells off, generally speaking, the money leaves Ethereum and then starts trickling into the other alts, just the same as what happens with Bitcoin. Ethereum's really the first altcoin. Ethereum, Litecoin, and maybe a couple of the other older ones are really the first altcoins to get that volume from Bitcoin once it starts topping out. And the same can be said with Ethereum diversifying into the altcoins, because Ethereum's the first altcoin to get that Bitcoin value. When Ethereum starts to retrace, that money has to leave Ethereum, and then it goes into even more altcoins. And so that's kind of the way that the cycles work. But this is really what I'm going to be watching out for with Ethereum. Okay, guys, next up is the alt season indicator, and that is Dogecoin. Now, Dogecoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin are your best bets for alt season indicators, because those are the older coins, and those are the ones that generally lead alt season. Now, you're going to find those random cases where certain coins might just lead first off, but generally speaking, the most consistent and the most accurate leaders are Doge, Litecoin, and Ethereum, because they are the oldest. Now, what I've told you guys previously, and once again, I'll link the video, the Doge video in this so that you guys can check that out. But the Dogecoin fractal is the exact same as what happened here, and it's just repeating it. So this big parabolic run was the same as this parabolic run here. And then we fully retrace, we bounce, we fully retrace, we bounce. We sell off from there, we bounce, we sell off from there, we bounce, and now we're selling off again. So in my opinion, we're either right here before the next big run, or we're somewhere down in here. But I think we're actually right here. I'm expecting another big impulse up that will take us to roughly these targets, right about there. That's my bet for the next place where I would look to accumulate. But I think that right now is probably your best bet for accumulating that bottom, because I think we're very close to actually breaking out from that. Now, with that being said, my next target's about 320% from current valuation right now today at about 26 sats. And so this one really sets you up for a nice profitable market cycle compared to a lot of the other ones. Now, the cool thing about Doge is when it runs, it pumps very quickly. You're talking within a week, it's going to make its move. And if you're not making sure that you have a trading plan in place, you're most likely going to miss out, because it goes parabolic and then immediately retraces either 100% of the move or at least 90-95% of that move. So it's important to be wary when trading this coin. Now, what I'm noticing right now, let's remove my trading plan tool, pull up my RSI. We have had a higher high on the RSI. Technically, we did make a lower low, not a very significant lower low, but it is in a lower low nonetheless. So this is our first bullish sign. We have had our first instance of bullish divergence. So that's always a very good key buying signal, especially in Dogecoin. Oftentimes we have these. We had one right here. We had one right here. And then if we would have gotten to a shorter time frame, I'm sure we would have had some back in here as well. But on a 3-day time frame, we are showing bullish divergence forming here. And so this is when you should watch out. It has very good volume that's came in from this recent sell-off. Now with this recent sell-off, we're currently down quite a lot from our last move. About 80%. And so I would expect a pretty sizable bounce to happen very soon with this bullish divergence. From where we're currently sitting now, I would like us to see hold support right about here at about 25 sats. If we could hold support at 25 sats and then start bouncing up even higher from that, I think that that's a confirmed trend reversal, and you should be watching for the initial rally back up. Because when these things really start to go, they go quickly. This formation right here looks roughly the same as here. Now, even right here looks roughly the same as here and here. And so they have similar correlations between the past. I'm expecting one more rally up into resistance, similar to what happened here. And in fact, this one impulse right here could actually go higher. Now, if we're comparing the last cycle, the third impulse went all the way up to about here, which would be the equivalent of probably here. in today's cycle. And so we have an opportunity to really get a huge run out of Doge very soon. And so this is why I wanted to talk to you guys about some of these Bitcoin pairs. They're setting up across the board. The older ones have proven themselves, and I've been able to watch a number of these cycles. And also they coexist nicely with a trading strategy I just recently taught here on this channel called channel trading. And so really we have 325%, and then we've got roughly 400% to that next target. So about 300 or 400% are my targets for this next run. And then after that, I would expect a long sell-off coming. And so I don't know if exactly it's going to bleed as long as this one did. Most likely it won't, just because of the way the cycles differ. But I have been wrong in the past, and I will be wrong again. So it's just a matter of watching. I'm not really going to try and tell you guys exactly how long something's going to accumulate. I'm showing you guys some simple setups and strategies that you can watch and play, and then kind of just go from there for yourselves. Alright guys, last up on the list today is going to be Made Safe. Now, I've been talking about Made Safe since virtually the beginning of my channel, because I've actually been buying since here, this bottom, here, virtually every bottom we've had I've been buying, so I'm bag holding this one currently. Now, a lot of you guys might be wondering why exactly I'm talking about Made Safe. Made Safe's dead. It's only listed on Poloniex. Poloniex is a shit exchange. Why would you ever talk about Made Safe? And really the reason I talk about Made Safe is for the same reason I just talked about the other three. Now, even though Made Safe isn't an XRP, it's not an Ethereum, it's not even a Dogecoin for that matter, it's a coin that produces a market cycle, fractal, that has replayed twice just as much as the other three coins that I just showed you. And this one, of all the other three, honestly has some of the best symmetry of the market cycles that I've seen. And so for that, I think that this one's going to produce a very nice run. And I've been saying that for a long time, but I'm sticking to my analysis, and I'm going to trade it through all the way. Now, if I'm wrong, I'm going to get wrecked. And if I'm right, I'm going to pay off very well. And so I'm just going to dive in today and show you guys exactly why I'm so excited about Made Safe. Now, before we even dive into this, just by taking a look at one indicator, we're going to be able to see a pattern that I've talked about recently in the last few videos, and that is volume. Volume came in. We had a massive volume increase that happened at the bottom of capitulation during this first little breakout, right? Because that was our breakout of the descending resistance from that sell-off. That broke out, right? That's where we saw all of our volume coming in. Now, I just told you guys recently of a little trading rule, and if you guys don't remember or didn't see that video, you should write this down because it's very important. Volume precedes price, meaning whenever you have a breakout in volume, that's oftentimes your first indication that price is about to lead. And so because we had this big volume breakout at a relative bottom of market structure, that is a key indication that there has been smart money buying the dip, and it should produce a very profitable cycle on the upside. Now, I like Made Safe because this cycle here is the exact same as this cycle here. This cycle's just been accumulating for a very, 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 very long time. Now, if we pull up the date range from the bottom of capitulation, we're going to see from today's values roughly 650 days. So 650 days we've been consolidating and accumulating just in this little triangle. Now, this triangle here is the exact same as the little one that we saw back in the day here, which is the only reason why I'm still bullish on this coin. The fact that it continues to paint the same little market cycle, the same symmetry, to me is a very obvious case that this one is going to go up again. And so it's these coins, in my opinion, that have the best probabilities of performing well in the wake of Bitcoin's markets because they've proven themselves twice already. In both big cycles and Bitcoin or altcoin runs that we've had, this one is produced. So I would expect it to continue to produce if it continues to create the same market symmetry, which it has. I mean, if we look here, we're going to see we had a blow off top, and then we retraced back down to this support floor. We got rejected 3 different times, once, twice, twice, once and twice. And then we sold off from that until we created this little triangle pattern in accumulation. And we saw literally the exact same thing happen thus far. Blow off top, rejection. This one rejected off at 3 times, but once, twice, and then we fall. Even this little fish hook looking thing is the exact same as what we saw here. And now we're just selling off from that. The fact that we have created another triangle at the bottom of accumulation, We have yet to break out of that. Still waiting for that moment when the Great Made Safe breaks out. But we are right at that resistance. Now, you can draw this a couple different ways. Really, what I'm seeing is that it has the potential for a breakout right now, what I'm seeing. But the reason why I'm most excited for this currently is because we have a massive bullish divergence happening on the 3-day. And it's happened since here. I've had 3 lower lows. But the bullish divergence on the RSI, the momentum is showing that the bears are very much depleted. And so even though we haven't made a significant lower low or a significant drop, the fact that we are producing very, very significant higher highs is showing that the money is drying out in the bearish favor. They can't continue to short this market any lower. So I'm very excited about this because out of all the cryptos, especially the Bitcoin pairs, this is one that really has one of the best risk to reward ratio setups that I've seen inside of the market. And what I'm seeing currently is just from where we're at now to the all-time high is about a 14x, almost 15x return. And that's only to the all-time high. Now, assuming that we break the all-time high, which we've done thus far, I would target something along the lines of maybe like a 23x. I really would not be the least bit surprised to see something like that, because that's not that high from that all-time high mark, that 23x mark. And out of all the altcoins, Bitcoin ratios, this one's honestly one of the best setups that I've ever found. It has the most market symmetry. It's repeating the last cycle almost identically. We've accumulated roughly longer than most any other altcoins out there. We have good volume to match. It's honestly just a no-brainer in my opinion. And so really, guys, these were the 4 altcoins that I had for you. These are 4 altcoins that I expect to perform very well in the wake of a Bitcoin run and an altcoin rally. I've told you guys numerous times that the coins that I'm most excited for about this next rally inside of cryptocurrency are the coins that have proven themselves. Now, I do expect shit coins and coins that just don't really have a proven record to continue to go up. Now, not all of them are going to do so, but I do expect a big majority of them to continue to rally. Now, with that being said, I think the most probable scenario for me is to wait out the first little impulses with some of those earlier coins that haven't proven themselves while I ride out the first moves of these. Because no matter what, they're all going to be going up together. And so if I can jump in on some of these bigger cap coins that have proven themselves, I'm risking less of my stack, my Bitcoin stack, and I'm putting more trust in the ones that have proven themselves. So when those go up, I can make some money and I can take those profits. And then from there, I can hold cash, I can diversify back into Bitcoin, and then I can also move back into lower cap coins. Because what we're going to see here, guys, is these high caps lead the market. It's going to take up some of these lower caps along with it. But the low caps are going to stay suppressed until these ones sell off. Because these ones are the ones that are taking the value first, the bigger ones. Now, MadeSafe really isn't that big of a project, but it's one of the older ones. So when I say the bigger ones, I mean specifically these 3, DOGE, XRP, and Ethereum. Those are your best bet for the bigger coins that are going to really lead the market. And so that's what I'm going to be watching out for. I'm not going to put it behind MadeSafe to lead the market with these Bitcoin pairs because it's one of the older coins. I think it will rally with Ethereum and some of the older ones. But we're going to watch and see exactly what's going to happen with the market. Overall, I'm seeing bullish setups across the board. Bullish divergence showing massive seller exhaustion. Really, no matter what altcoin you look at, you're going to see seller exhaustion to some point. Not all of them are that way, but a lot of the good majority altcoins that have been trading for the last few years are showing bullish setups. And so I'm excited, guys. Honestly excited about where things are headed. Whether Bitcoin takes another leg down or not, it doesn't matter at this point. I'm not invested emotionally. Bitcoin can make a leg down, and I'm excited I get to buy at cheaper values. But if Bitcoin goes up, I've already bought at 9,100, and so I'm really just excited with no matter what happens. More or less what I'm watching for above all else is what's going to happen with these altcoins, because I think that we're at that very last point where these suckers are really going to start performing well. So pack your bags, make your trading plans, get everything ready, because I think we're very close to that end of the true answer to what's going to happen and come of all this. Anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching. I will catch you guys in the next video. As always, peace out.